Shalom and welcome to 2 Minutes of Torah. This year is entitled Purim, Fighting Our Enemies, Not Ourselves. We read in the Haftorah, Parshat Zachor, that to me is one of the most tragic chapters in all of Tanakh. The great Shaul, humble man, didn't want to be the leader, ran away from the power, yet he was forced to assume leadership to be the king. And he saved the Jews in the beginning in the war against their enemies, and now he was asked to go ahead and defeat Amalek. And he wiped them out mostly. It's a successful war, more or less, except, of course, Agag is still alive, and the animals also. Some of them were left alive as well. He sees Shmuel. He says, Kiyamti Dvar Hashem. I've done everything you've told me, which is just unbelievable. And the commentaries struggle. Well, how can he say such a thing? So some say the Alshich says that he thought maybe the Agag was not actually a biological descendant of Amalek, and he thought maybe he was not part of the mitzvah to wipe out Amalek. And the animals, he thought the Isser is to take the animals to themselves. You kill all the animals, and then you leave some over to dedicate to God. As long as you don't take it to yourself, yet all his rationales and explanation, the Gemara Sanhedrin, and the Alshich, and the stuff, you have to go through all the commentaries, but they try to make sense. What was he thinking with this tragic mistake? But the bottom line is he somehow made a mistake and did not know how to deal with the enemies, and he lost the kingdom. Shmuel was an Avelud. What a tragedy. What a tragic loss. But the point that I'd like to make is, besides the tragedy of Shaul's life and the eventual death, is that here he receives a nevuah from Shmuel to wipe out Shaul. He is to wipe out Amalek. He's told how to deal with the enemy, and somehow he just didn't have it clear. How much more so now? We don't have a clear nevuah, a clear command exactly how to deal with our enemies. How much more so are we going to have such extreme approaches? If Shaul had a nevuah, prophecy from Shmuel, and he couldn't get it clear for some reason, it's mububal, confusing for him, tragically, what's going to be with us? How are we going to deal with our enemies? And the answer is we're going to have an extreme range of views. Certainly within the Jewish world, people who are not anchored in the Torah and Masorah are not looking to our tradition to learn how to deal with the enemies. And even within the Orthodox world, those who are trying to be anchored in the sources, in the Torah Shebechtav and Torah Shebechtav, the written law and the oral law, they're also going to have extreme views. You can have an extreme view from Rav Shach, who's looking to lay low and not incite and not take over more land. Don't start out with our enemies. You're going to have our Tzvi Yehuda cooks are going to try to hold on to every centimeter of Israel. The Lubavitcher Rebbe is going to have that position as well, not for the exact same reason as Rav Kook. He didn't go for the Atchalta de Gula, the beginning of the Gula approach, but he came up with the similar idea of holding on to all of Israel. And you're going to have every possible view in the middle. Land for peace. Not to have land for peace. You can have Rav Kahana on one extreme, Shimon Peres on the other extreme. Who's right, who's wrong, could go on forever. But the crucial point is that this is a complex area, more than many other areas in the Torah. There are so many factors involved. The halachas of Yishuv Aretz, of conquering Eretz Israel, the halachas of giving land up, then the metzias, the reality. Is there a partner to deal with? And then the psychological factor, what will that do if land is given up? It's endless. And it's confusing. And as Rav Aaron's favorite word, Rav Aaron his favorite words is morkav, complex. It's a complex area. And when you have a complex area, we're going to argue. And the key point is that we understand we're all arguing on how to fight our enemy. But we are not each other's enemies at all. And Chas v'shalom, someone more to the right will look at Shimon Peres as an enemy. Chas v'shalom, someone more to the left is going to look at Meir Kahane as an enemy. Chas v'shalom. Different views. You can say this idea is distorted. This idea is dangerous. This approach could be suicidal. That's fine. But the person's not an enemy. Not a fellow Jew. not a Jew who trying his best to see and implement what's ideal in his opinion for Klal Yisrael. It's absolutely crucial that we have that healthy approach. And just to finish off with, to me, the most beautiful example in terms of different approaches of how to deal with our enemy, but yet respectful, is when Rav Meidan protested the Oslo Accords, which Rav Amital Zecher Tzadik Levracha supported at that point in his life. And Rav Meidan held it's a disaster. Meidan, of course, is the current Rosh Yeshiva of Gush. And he went and he was part of the protest tent. And who showed up at the protest tent? The Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Meidan's boss. And he goes ahead, and who knows what's going to happen. So in other situations, what could happen is that the boss is going to hand a paper, "You're fired," to his employee, publicly going against Rosh Yeshiva. What did Rav Amital do? He went ahead, gave Rav Meidan a handshake. Yasher koach, kol hakavod to you for holding strong. You have your opinion. I think it's wrong, but you have your opinion, and you're holding by it, and you're living by it, and you're making a clear statement to the klal what you hold by. That is an amazing machloket, a true argument l'shem shamayim. These are giants who have very different approaches to how to deal with the enemy, and we already saw from Shaul, he had a clear directive from Hashem, but he was confused how to understand it. All the more so from us, where we don't have that clear directive from Hashem, we're going to have different opinions. But keep our eyes on our enemies, dealing with the enemies, argue with each other, argue with the opinions, but never, never putting down and looking at someone, another Jew who argues, as our enemy. It's Hashem. Once we have this kind of unity, despite our arguments, with unity among ourselves, then Hashem will give us the merit to truly fight successfully against our enemies. Shalom.